welcome to the video. John Bodine here with Redemptive Psych, and today we're talking about the needs of the INFJ, one of the more mysterious of the 16 types. And also, if you guys are not aware yet, my website's up and I'm offering typing sessions now at redemptivepsych.com if you want to get a session with me. So the needs of the INFJ, needs as we're talking about in this series, our needs are broken down into two paths here, okay? We have needs in the typical sense of, hey, I need freedom, I need space, I need food, I need this opportunity, but we also have the need to give. We have a need as humans for receptive people to the things that we want to share. This idea, very important idea, very interesting idea, and an idea that you can take so much further, is explored a bit in the 5 Love Languages book by Gary Chapman, and in C.S. Lewis's book, The 4 Loves, where he talks about need love and gift love. Okay, so in this series, we're just talking about 3 of the archetypes that have, in my opinion, the most impact in this conversation of how you can meet the needs of others, how you can meet your own needs, and how others can be aware of what you need to give so that they can be more receptive of it if they choose to. So starting with NI Hero, the hero function has a dual need, firstly to express itself. Okay, the hero is strong, it's capable, it is what we need to use to like get energy out of the day, out of life. Having space to express it. This is especially important for the INJs, which we'll talk about in a moment, but the space to express it is essential. Then second, recognition. Okay, recognizing the hero's abilities is very important to connect with the type, to show some appreciation for their humanity. Okay, every person has probably dealt with this, of feeling like their hero has not been recognized, let alone expressed. And if you see the pattern here, if you just do one of these things, the other thing is usually going to happen. If you let someone express themselves in certain ways, you can kind of see what they're capable of and then recognize and praise them for that. Now, the text in blue is what that function offers in terms of what they give, and the text in black is what they kind of need from you more if you choose to give it, or can give it. First, the NI hero, what do they provide? Okay, they provide desire. They provide that burning desire for people. They want people around them, or they want certain people around them. They may go initiate actually to get someone in their life or to get an interaction with them. When either of the INJs like initiates, that's kind of a big deal because they don't necessarily like to initiate. SE Inferior is kind of uncomfortable with that and they have a hard time with that. So when they initiate, you can interpret that as probably a moment of courage for them, for the sake of pursuing something that they want. Okay, they also pursue great futures. They are very idealistic. They are idealists. They have this ideal image of the future always, and they sort of have to function to some degree. So they're usually, as long as they're not struggling too much, they're usually pursuing something really good or something that they think is really good. And even though some other types struggle to perceive the value of someone so future-oriented, they often get their future. Now, they may not get the satisfaction that they hope from that future, and that's one of their great kind of crises, their spiritual crises that often changes them fundamentally. But they are often pursuing great things. And with that, when they are pursuing something, they have a devoted commitment to it, and they have this unstoppable force at times with specific projects or ideals or futures that they're pursuing. Their commitment can waver as they can move between things, but every once in a while they'll find something, usually something longer term, that it's just like they're all in, they're rooted, they're entrenched into moving towards that future. Now, this last one here is a bit, I find very interesting, and they ask the question, what's missing? Or they kind of do this instinctively. NI heroes, both of them, but especially the INFJ, has this ability to, when they're part of really anything, of a group or an institution or family, or if they're just onlooking from the outside, NI hero has this ability to perceive what is missing. Okay, so their desire for the future will naturally fill in the cracks of things that are missing, of like, oh, we need, there is value here, this thing is missing. If we just fill in the crack here, seal the ship here, then it'll be whole and perfect. That's kind of how they work. So NI plus FE here with their parent, which we're not talking about today, but those two combined with the sensitivity of SE inferior is very aware of kind of what's lacking or what's missing. And this is one of the ways they can come across as being kind of critical, because they're very aware of like what's missing when they're familiar with the space. But letting them express that is very important, because that is how they kind of help build a better future for other people. Okay, what does NI hero need? Understanding is apex here. Jung talked about this a lot in psychological types. He talked about it for all the 4 IJ types, specifically the 2 INJs with NI hero. He talked about how NI hero is kind of perceived as being useless by society, because it doesn't come with like a built-in tool of like being able to fix stuff necessarily, or like practical things. The NI hero's ability is kind of hidden, actually. So they walk around life, feeling very misunderstood. Both INJs do, and partly it's because the place and where they're strongest and most capable is kind of invisible to other people, or it's devalued by other people. This is where a lot of the conflict with STPs and the INFJ come from, because STPs have this standard of it needs to be real to be valuable. And the INFJ is like, it is real to them because that's how they perceive reality in the future, where it will be real. And the STPs don't really go for that very, very often. So understanding, you don't have to understand NI hero implicitly to give their hero space, but just understanding that they probably work differently from you or from other people, that will help you get the fuel you need to give their hero space if you choose to. Now, what else? Mini goals, helping them establish mini goals. This is why like NFPs and the ESTJ especially do well with INFJs, because they help them break down the process and articulate some things that they're not clear about. So helping them establish mini goals and recognizing and celebrating those checkpoints is very important for them, because they can just kind of not see why it's important, or how they struggle to know how to break down their pursuits into tasks. So they just kind of get lost in the how. And last here, less obligation. NI heroes are like walking daydreamers. They're kind of dreaming all the time, as long as there's not too many environmental things pulling them out. So basically less obligation. Obligate them, with intention, and when there's a purpose to it, like if they need to do something, fine. But be careful how you treat their attention. They don't have a lot of attention to give things that their NI hero is not focused on. So valuing, basically only obligating them when you need to, that allows them to continue to use their hero, which is what we all want anyway. So moving down to the inferior here, extroverted sensing inferior, worried about impressions, leaving a bad impression, not knowing how what they do will impact others, worried that they don't have what it takes to do something. That is their anxiety. The inferior needs 2 things. It needs reassurance and exploration, okay? Our inferiors are unsure of ourselves. The inferior function is anxious by default. So reassurance, in this case, really that I'm here for you no matter what, and then I'll give you good feedback. That really helps the inferior relax. And then the opportunity for exploration. This is where the really important thing happens for all extroverted inferiors especially. INFJs need to explore their impact. They need to explore trying out performance. They need to explore failure in order to become really good at something. And they will almost always become really, really good at what they're pursuing, just because how much time and energy they put into it with their hero. So the reassurance and exploration is really evident, I think, with SE inferior, even more so than some of the other ones. So I'm going to start with what they need to receive. Undivided attention. When you're talking to them, or when they're talking to you especially, particularly if you're in an environment that's like maybe busy, or like maybe you're new to them, giving them undivided attention, not being distracted when you're talking to them, is kind of dysregulating to them when you're distracted, because they're kind of relying on you being attentive so that they can focus too. They have a hard time focusing on things that force them to move into the environment around them. So undivided attention is very powerful for them. Predictable reactions and behavior. They often do not express themselves. Both INJs do this. They often do not express themselves because they can't anticipate the reaction of the person. And that there is fear in the reaction in the inferior. There is fear of also what might happen with any nemesis below that if they can't anticipate your reaction, they're unlikely to take a risk to actually express themselves. So acting in predictable ways, in predictable behavior, INFJs are often drawn to people who are less neurotic because their reactions are more consistent overall, or at least they're not extreme. So if you can manage that, having predictable behavior, that helps the inferior regulate to a large degree. And then help improve. They really want to improve. They don't want you to just baby them of like, oh yeah, that was a good job, or whatever. At times, giving them selective feedback and constructive criticism for their inferior is very powerful. Don't like dump it all on them at once. Just give them like a few things at a time, and then they will, that's kind of all they can handle in one moment for the most part, because then they put it to change. They move it into change. They start to integrate it into their personhood. So it's any feedback that you give them, if they care about it, it may not seem like a lot, but they embody that feedback so much that it translates into action faster than almost any other type. Okay, what they provide. Okay, they're always in the pursuit of excellence, of perfection, of refining whatever craft or future they are pursuing. Excellence is like their religion with SE Inferior. Okay, they dream of the perfection of being able to perform or do something in a certain way. And they will get there eventually as long as they keep going. Building in small ways and micro improvement. I'm going to put these together. The inferior in general is the most aware of the microscopic layer, the layer that everyone else is not looking at, the layer that people are missing gains out of because they are not acknowledging the value of. As the inferior, for example, with like basketball, they might see, I notice this when I'm coaching people, if their hand is like moved just a little bit to the left, or elbow, or fingers, or anything like really small and microscopic, they notice that. But they also recognize for themselves that, if you fix 2 or 3 of those small things over time, that's going to have massive gains. So at the appropriate time, if you let them kind of give you some feedback on little things that you could improve, whether it's in a mechanical way or whatever, you will usually, if you can fix those, it'll really improve. So even though the inferior is sensitive and vulnerable, it still provides some intrinsic value because of this. It's aware of all the small pieces that are just not quite fitting or working right, at least in this case. And INFJs also dream of being able to be in a position where they can help build people up and strengthen them, and they provide it mainly through the micro improvement. I think Plato had that quote, who's probably an INFJ. I have to revisit him, but something like, don't judge a person if they make progress, no matter how slow. As the inferior has reverence for the process of micro improvement, and they will give that space to others to improve, no matter how slowly. That's one of their gifts to people when they're in a position as a therapist, as a coach, as whatever they are in their relationship to other people. Okay, lastly here, Fi Critic. Fi Critic's very harsh on themselves, on their feelings of unworthiness. They're also kind of harsh on other things. If they don't think something is good or done right, they're kind of pretty harsh towards that as well, even though they won't always express it, or maybe they don't know how to express it. The critic needs a combination of affirmation of its mission, because remember, the critic is a secret idealist. It has thorny exterior with this really wounded child, even though they're like this old person, in the interior. So affirming the value of their mission. Yes, if people took what they said was important more seriously, if they acted out what they actually believed in, if they invested carefully, if they had better taste about what's good and what's not good, the world would be a better place, right? And that's probably true. Yes, critic, the world would be a better place if people were authentic in how they expressed, cared about what they believed in, acted from what they believed in, and invested carefully. Second is evidence. Evidence is, in this case, demonstrating evidence that you're aware of the critic's mission and value it for yourself. So FI users naturally are going to do this for the INFJ, particularly FI parent and hero, and the other ones too. But who demonstrate an importance for using FI in a, in a careful way. Okay, I put here unassuming entitlement, which really means like non-assuming in entitlement. Because of FI Critic, they're not necessarily entitled to rewards or money or resources. It's almost like they have the perspective of, I don't deserve to get paid until I can do it perfectly, and that's sort of their perspective, and that's one way they can really harm themselves and their future, and others is by really not valuing themselves enough. However, the lack of entitlement means they're willing to sacrifice a lot for what they believe in, for what they want, for what they're pursuing, and that can be very valuable really in any place, especially where they're working with people, because they value the person, they value the opportunity to help people improve. Okay, moral obsession I put here, it's just integrity. Basically, FI Critic has a lot of integrity kind of built into it. And for a INFJ to develop the FI Critic, they sort of have to explore ways in which they don't have the integrity that they hold themselves to. But in general, they take things very seriously that they care about. They care about being someone of integrity. They care about being reliable, at least when it comes to their principles. And lastly here, I put value sensing / quality. Okay, this is related to what I said earlier about understanding what's missing. But FE parent, okay, and then FI Critic is very aware of values. FE parent is aware of where there's not enough value being invested in by other people. So FI Critic, when it senses that, as long as it's not content to just judge, it will get up and it will start investing into the people and the places that are maybe too lowly or invisible to other people. And that is part of the source of the INFJ's integrity, when they give to the places and the people that no one else gives to, and there's plenty of those out, and it helps build those people up. And last here is quality. Now, INFJs have this thing where they are accused a lot of being ungrateful. I've been told I've been ungrateful a few times. Sometimes that was fair, but most of the time it's not fair at all. And the reason why is because of what they're after. Okay, they're after the perfect expression of something, or the awareness that it can always be so much better, because to be better is to be more helpful, and is to start realizing this mission more. So yes, you can call them out at times if they are being ungrateful, but I would recommend verifying this first, because their obsession with quality is what allows them to realize an excellent skill or an excellent future, or help build up someone in excellent ways. So through this standard of quality, that is a filtration system for them to protect them against bad futures. Okay, what does FI Critic need to receive? Reasonable standards. I talked about this in a previous video, but one of the reasons that INFJ judges themselves so much and judges other people and judges things is because FI Critic starts with this assumption of badness. TE Trickster affirms that assumption and really kind of grows it. So helping the INFJ, ask them, what kind of assumption do you have in this situation of how things should go? And they have absurdly high standards, high assumptions or expectations of how they should go. And once that is revealed to their consciousness, they can kind of usually quickly see that that is not a reasonable standard. So if you are a TE user, for example, or maybe you're just another type, helping provide reasonable standards and expectations to them helps the critic not be so destructive. Detailed appreciation. This is a big one. This is a little bit more about the parent, but the parent and the inferior are linked. Hey, INFJs and ISFJs too. Both the IFJs don't only like compliments, like, oh, you did so good, or that was good. And the reason why is because they don't believe it. And they don't believe it because if you just say something's good, there's no evidence of impact. Maybe they're just trying to not make you feel bad. So giving detailed compliments. Hey, okay, this was really good, and here's why, and it had this impact on me, and it helped me in this way. Building up those details reaches the critic and helps the critic relax with its judgment of the self. As much as the INFJ hates to admit it, they are often very, very at the mercy of how people feel about them, and that's something they can work on. But if you can provide detailed appreciation, not just blanket compliments, one detailed compliment is more effective than like 10,000, I'm not even kidding, 10,000 shallow compliments. So express why it was helpful, what it did for you, how it changed things, and the impact it made. That will really help Fi Critic. Lastly here, cultivate expression. Help them cultivate expression. This is related here to the SE inferior, kind of being reactive to them, letting them explore their performance and explore the things that they want to do in the environment. Helps them cultivate expression. When they do express themselves, either their emotions or through artwork or in certain ways, appreciating and recognizing that is a great way to connect with the critic as well, because Fi Critic does have this ability to be quite artistic and creative in how it expresses itself, but it can be a bit hard for them to bring that out. So when it comes out, showing appreciation for that and maybe partnering with them to provide some opportunities for that can be very important for helping them, meeting the needs of the critic. All right, guys, that's the INFJ, the needs of the INFJ. Hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys got something out of it. And yeah, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye.